So I'm going to share with you what I'm going to call 11 tips for success. Now, most of these are financial tips. Some are just kind of general health-wise, and they're going to apply. Most of them will apply to most of you. Some of them you could debate whether or not you should follow them. If you have any questions about any of them and how they might apply to your life, just give me an email, give me a call, or whatever. Okay, so here we go. First thing, and many of these I've talked about throughout the semester. So live beneath your means. So how could you live above your means? It just simply means that you're going into debt beyond, what you can pay off. So you're using your credit cards more than you should, and so on. And so what we want to do is simply take what we earn, and we want to spend less than what we earn, then we can save it, even if it's a little bit. Through the power of compounding, we can make some money over time. So let me give you an example. Here's Ashley and Amanda. Ashley, we're going to assume they're both making $4,000 a month. This is take home, so that's $48,000, but after tax. So they're probably making $50-some thousand a year, and we're going to go 25 to 64. That means they're working for 40 years. And so Ashley spends everything that she makes. And so by the time she's 65, she's basically broke, and she's living on a Social Security check of about $1,900 a month. Amanda spends $3,200 a month and therefore saves $800, which would be 20% of her take home, okay, not of her gross necessarily. And if she put it into an index fund or a target date index fund earning 7%, which is very reasonable over 40 years, considering that stock market has provided about a 9 to 10% return, she would have over $2 million. And that $2 million would help her to generate over $200,000 a year in retirement. So which would you rather have? Now, this is easier said than done, but hey, it's something to aspire. And this is how most rich people get rich. This, by the way, is a slide I took from Personal Finance Club. It's a great website, especially go to their Facebook page. Number 2, keep an emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of expenses in a savings account. So this is what you would try to do before really all of the other types of financial advice that I'm going to provide. Emergency fund is great because, excuse me, not only does it give you a cushion in times of maybe COVID and you get laid off, or you have a health problem, or you get in a car crash, or you just want to quit your job because you don't like it and you're worried about getting a new job, so you stay in your old job. If you don't have emergency fund, you're afraid to leave it, and that could cause you a lot of headaches, a lot of mental distress. But having that cushion just allows you to sleep a lot better at night, because regardless of what you might need funds for, just knowing that you have 3 to 6 months there makes you just your whole emotional state is much better. Number 3, automatically save 15% of your gross income. So the example I used a minute ago is 20% of your net income or take home, but 15%. Now, most financial people will tell you somewhere between 10 and 20. I'm going with 15%. If you can do that, that's great. Now, here's what you got to keep in mind. If you start now, or when you're 25, hopefully you start earlier, you can get by with 15%. But if you wait, say, 10 years to get to the same point in the future, you're going to have to invest 23%. And if you're like many Americans, they wait till they're 40 or 50, and they're never able to catch up. Number 4, max out your 401k. So a 401k is simply it's a tax deferred, I think I just spelled that wrong, tax deferred kind of retirement plan, which means you can put money into this fund, and you get to pick usually what kind of fund it goes into, but typically like a stock fund, and then your employer will match it. Okay, and so what you want to do, when I say optimize, I mean get up to the point. Gosh, my spelling's really bad today. Match. So, for example, most employers will match up to about, say, 5% of your salary. So that means if you're making $50,000, and they match 5%, that means you put in 25 and they'll put in 25. If you do that, you've just made 100% right away. So before you put any money anywhere, if you have a 401k available to you, take advantage of that, at least up to the matching part. Okay? Number 5, instead of buying individual stocks, which buying individual stocks is fun, it makes you feel like you're good at picking companies that you think are going to do well, but most research shows that it's better to just buy what we call an index fund. And here's the symbol. If you want to look that up, you can buy it through Robinhood, you can buy it through any other brokerage account, or you can buy a target date fund like this one right here. This would be appropriate for you because it's I think a 2065 fund. And both of those are very well diversified. They have low expenses, and they're going to do at least what research has shown typically better than any of us buying individual stocks. And yes, that's me included. So let me go through just another example. Here I say instead of buying individual stocks, or I should mention here, putting your money in a savings account, because a lot of you think you got to be safe with your money. At your age, meaning if you are in your 20s, you should be fairly aggressive with your money when it comes to putting it into an investment, because you've got 40, 50 years before you will need that for retirement, unless you want to save money for a house, and that's another situation. So let's look at this. Kelsey here, she's saving $500 a month, and she's putting into a savings account paying 2%, which is about twice or more than twice what you would get right now in a savings account. But anyway, 2%, 40 years later, Kelsey would have about $365,000. Kayla puts her money into a target date fund, and she makes 10%. I would say that's a little bit high, but it's possible. It's what the stock market has done over the last 90 years. She's going to have over almost $3 million. Compare these two numbers. This one's almost 10 times more, 9 times more. Okay? So saving is not enough. You must be investing in something like this. Okay? So how do you do it? Simply open up an account. I showed you how to do it on Robinhood in one of the videos, or you can use any of these. So Fidelity and Charles Schwab are two of the biggest brokerage houses, and they'll be able to buy those accounts for you. These are Vanguard and Betterment, a little bit different investment companies. So either one of those, open them up, takes 5 minutes, transfer money from your checking account into that fund, and then you can buy an index fund like VTI, and this will buy you 3,000 different companies at once, even if you're putting in $100. So it's great. That's it. 1, 2, 3, you're done. Number 6, pay your credit card balance in full. Remember how important I talked about your credit score. Your credit score is impacted significantly by how you treat your credit cards. So pay them off. And you see here I have a lot of credit cards cut up, and you shouldn't need any more than 2. I have 2, but I primarily only use 1. I have 2 in case I lose one. So 1 is really, in my opinion, all you would need. You don't need to get it from your own bank. You can go online, look for good credit cards for college students. Try to get one you shouldn't have to pay any annual fee. Ones that give you 1 to 2% cash back. 2% cash back is about the highest you will get on all your purchase. Number 7, buy a home when it makes sense. So there's definitely some variables in there. Now this is the one definitely where people could say, hey, that's maybe not the best decision for everybody, and I get that, and I'm fine with that. But this is kind of like part of the American dream. And you can see if you looked on here, you want to spend some time looking at some of these numbers here. Here's the most important one. 96% of homeowners are happy with their decision to own. That's hard to beat, that statistic right there. It's great when you can nail in the wall, you can paint it black, you can have your dog in the bathroom in the house. I know that's not what you want. It happens to me though sometimes. But it's my house, and so I don't have to worry about telling the landlord if something bad happened to it. So I don't have to worry about getting my security deposit back. I don't have to worry about getting kicked out. It's mine, and there's just a sense of kind of accomplishment of having your own home. So gives you somewhat of a peace of mind. And anyway, I think it's just a great thing for everybody to have. But if you remember, most people don't buy a house till they're 30 years old because that's when they typically can afford it. Also, if you're going to be moving, every couple of years, then it probably really doesn't make sense. And if you think, well, I'll just buy one to be able to maybe build up a lot of equity or make a lot of money, well, you could probably make a better return by putting your money in the stock market as opposed to a rental property. Number 8, at a minimum, carry catastrophic health insurance. So if you don't have health insurance, which many businesses would offer you, for some reason you don't have it, you really need to be thinking about catastrophic insurance. Okay, so these are the people that typically get it. If you're under 30, you're in good health, you're maybe looking for insurance. The premiums are going to be anywhere from like $35 to $50 a month, and deductible might be something like $8,000. Now you might think that's a lot. It is a lot. However, we're talking catastrophic, means you get in a car accident and you have a $100,000 bill. That could bankrupt you. Whereas $8,000, you should be able to manage that eventually. So catastrophic at a minimum gives you peace of mind also at night. Number 9. So now we're getting out of the financial realm here. No, don't neglect any of your well-being. So we call these like the wellness things here. Dimensions of wellness. So we've primarily been talking about financial, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the semester, if you're having financial difficulties, that's going to flow over into your work because you're depressed about, you don't have enough money or whatever. It's going to impact your social network, your friends, how you interact with your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever. Because you're so stressed out about your financial situation, that'll take a toll on you physically and definitely emotionally. So these are all interconnected here. And if you can work on each one of these, try to stay in shape, always be learning on the job, always be thinking about learning new things, expanding your knowledge and your skills. Spiritual, what are you doing that matches with what your values and your purpose in life are? Emotional, are you managing your emotions in a constructive way? Environment, where are you living? Are you living in a really rundown place that's loud and you can't stand living there and you can't get any sleep? For me, I'm not a city person. I love going to the big cities, but there's no way I could live there because I can't take all the cement and all the noise. I love visiting them, but I love my house out in the middle of the country. It's quiet, and that feeds my physical, my spiritual, my emotional, feeds so many of these other aspects of me, makes me feel good. Social, have friends, and I don't mean friends on Facebook. Watch The Social Dilemma, if you got Netflix. All of you, especially your generation, should watch this movie. It's very, very interesting about kind of what's going on in social media. And I think that, always be learning in your job. Try to get a job that you actually enjoy. That will make your life a lot better, more bearable too. Number 10. Now this one, once again, this one's going outside of the financial realm, and this says focus on processes instead of goals. Now we talked about SMART goals and personal finance earlier on, which SMART goals are great. But this book, and this is kind of a recent book, I want to recommend this book called Atomic Habits. And I'm just going to share a few things with you about it. And he talks about, how having good habits is going to contribute to so much of a richer life than doing things that are bad for you. So think about, in terms of kind of relating habits to finance, habits are like the compound interest of self-improvement. So that said, like, for example, how successful or unsuccessful you are right now doesn't really matter. It matters what path you are on. Do you have good habits that are going to put you on paths to success, and so on. So goals are about the results you want to achieve. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. So if you're a coach and you want to win the championship, your system is how you recruit players, manage your assistant coaches, and conduct practice. If you're an entrepreneur, your goal might be to build $1 million business. But your system, your process, is how you test product ideas, hire employees, and run marketing campaigns, and so on. Okay? So, if you ignored your goal, you could probably still get there if you really focused on your systems. And a lot of times with your goals, we're like, well, I want to save $1 million when I'm 30 or 40 or whenever. But if you're not to that point, then you're like, well, I don't even know if I'm successful or not. But if you have the right systems in place, then as long as you've got a system that will get you to that goal, then you can be happy all the time knowing that you're on the right path. Okay? So the goal is not necessarily to read a book, it's to become a reader. It's not to run a marathon, the goal is to become a runner. The goal is not to learn an instrument, but become a musician. So the other thing about habits, and this is kind of focusing on like bad habits, a lot of times we often say things that are negative about ourselves. So like, I'm terrible with directions, I'm not a morning person, I'm bad at remembering people's names, or I'm always late, I'm not good at technology, I'm bad with math. Every time you say those negative things, okay, that reinforces in you who you are. And so stop saying all those things. Try to say something more positive about yourself so that that doesn't become ingrained, because you can learn more about math. You can get better with technology. You can work on being tardy and so on, okay? So anyway, you don't want that thought or action to be tied up in your identity, because that makes it more difficult to change it. So anyway, I really want to encourage Atomic Habits. Great book. So here's another thing along the habits. When we talk about little percentage, if we improved 1% every day, at the end of a year, we'd be like 38 times better. Okay? It's like compounding. And if we went down 1%, well, we'd get down to like next to nothing. Think about this. If you had a penny today and you doubled it every day for 30 days, for a month, for 30 days, so a penny becomes 2 pennies, becomes 4 pennies, becomes 8 pennies. In 30 days, you would have over $5 million. Small changes every day can make a big difference. Here are 4 laws for building good habits, bad habits. You can pause it if you want to read those. That's kind of like out of the Atomic Habits book. The last thing, give back, volunteer. We talked about at the beginning of the semester, can money buy happiness? It can to a certain degree, but they found out that the best way for money to buy happiness is by giving it to other people, by using it to help other people. And when you start volunteering, helping with a nonprofit or whatever, some sort of charity, you feel better about yourself because it's not selfish. And that's when we really start to generate happiness within ourselves. I love this quote. Remember that the happiest people are not those getting more, but those giving more. All right? So, those are my 11 tips. Hope you enjoyed them.